Welcome to today's politics discussion. I'm Claire, and I'm joined by Alan. We'll be covering several key stories involving international relations, U.S. policy, and domestic issues.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alan. We'll dive into these topics with a focus on clarity and neutrality.
Let's start with the news that Chinese leader Xi Jinping will travel to North Korea next week. This marks his first visit in nearly 7 years. The visit follows North Korea's recent reveal of a new facility for producing nuclear bomb ingredients.
That's a significant development. What's the context behind Xi's visit after such a long gap?
The reporting suggests that Xi's trip is part of a series of steps by China to reinforce its close ties with North Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has recently reached out to Russia, which might be one reason China is strengthening its ties.
So is this visit seen as a response to North Korea's increasing engagement with Russia?
The articles indicate that while Kim Jong-un has been reaching out to Russia, Xi's visit is more about solidifying China's relationship with North Korea. It's not explicitly framed as a response to North Korea-Russia ties, but it could be interpreted that way.
I see. The timing is certainly interesting, given North Korea's recent nuclear developments. How does this visit potentially impact the nuclear situation?
The visit could have various implications. On one hand, it might help in maintaining regional stability through diplomatic channels. On the other hand, it could be seen as China supporting North Korea's nuclear ambitions, which would be a concern for the international community.
That's a good point. The international community has been pressing North Korea to denuclearize. Does Xi's visit signal a shift in China's stance on this issue?
The reporting doesn't suggest a significant shift in China's stance. However, it does indicate that China is committed to maintaining its influence in the region through diplomatic engagement. Moving on, the U.S. has imposed sanctions on Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, along with his wife and 3 other individuals. This is the latest move by the U.S. to pressure Cuba's leadership.
What are the specific reasons cited for these sanctions?
The Treasury Department's filing doesn't specify the exact reasons, but it's part of the broader U.S. policy to pressure the Cuban government. This action has drawn immediate condemnation from Havana.
How does this fit into the larger U.S.-Cuba policy under the current administration?
The sanctions are consistent with the Trump administration's hardline stance on Cuba. Previous administrations had taken different approaches, but the current policy is focused on pressuring the Cuban government through economic and diplomatic means.
I understand. The reaction from Havana was expected. What's the potential impact of these sanctions on the Cuban economy and people?
The sanctions will likely exacerbate the economic challenges Cuba is already facing. The Cuban government has condemned the move, saying it will hurt the Cuban people.
Let's move on to the U.S. Senate's recent decision to pass a $70 billion funding bill for ICE and Border Patrol. The vote was 52-47, with no support from Democrats.
That's right. The bill allocates nearly all of the funding to DHS's ICE and Border Patrol agencies, which are carrying out the Trump administration's vigorous deportation policies.
What are the key components of this funding, and how will it be used?
The funding is set to finance the immigration forces for another 3 years. It includes a controversial $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, although there's no provision to ban it.
The anti-weaponization fund is interesting. What's its purpose, according to the reporting?
The details aren't entirely clear, but it's related to countering the smuggling of weapons. The lack of clarity around it has been a point of contention.
I see. The bill still needs to clear the House. What's the expected timeline for that?
The vote in the House is expected next week. The outcome is uncertain, given the divided support. On a different note, President Trump has said he plans to attend Game 3 of the NBA Finals at Madison Square Garden, but suggested those who can't afford tickets should watch it on television.
That's quite a statement. What's the context behind Trump's comment?
Trump confirmed he was invited by team owner James Dolan, who has donated to his political campaigns. Trump's comment about watching on TV was likely in response to the high ticket prices.
It seems like a somewhat tone-deaf comment given the context of ticket affordability.
Yes, it could be seen that way. Trump is a longtime Knicks fan, and his attendance is seen as a show of support for the team.
Let's discuss the change in ICE's policy regarding the reporting of deaths of detainees who have recently been released from custody.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement will no longer report these deaths, which could obscure the full human cost of the Trump administration's mass detention policies.
That's a significant change. What's the rationale behind this policy shift?
The reporting doesn't provide a clear rationale, but it's likely to be controversial given the concerns about transparency and accountability in detention facilities.
The change has been criticized for potentially hiding the true impact of detention policies. How might this affect public perception and oversight?
It could lead to less transparency and make it harder for the public and watchdog groups to monitor conditions in detention facilities. This lack of transparency is a concern for those advocating for detaining rights. We've covered several significant stories today, from international diplomacy to U.S. domestic policy. I think that's a good place to wrap up for today.
Absolutely. It's been a thorough discussion. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, and goodbye.